get our little acceleration here. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're gonna be going over a C8 Corvette. And yes, this one's actually slightly modified. We'll get into that in today's video. But first and foremost, a huge shout out and thank you to Chandler for providing me with his C8 Corvette. Go check out his channel in the description below. Go subscribe to it. He shares all of his awesome vehicles with you guys on his channel. So he's got this Ferrari 458, he's got the C8 Corvette, he's got the Tesla, and yes, he's got a Raptor if you guys like to see a little bit of truck content. But not only does he shares awesome vehicles with you, he also shows you how to afford these vehicles. So go check out his channel in the description below. Let's get straight into the video. Under the hood, or should I say trunk, of the C8 Corvette, we have a naturally aspirated 6.2 liter V8 that goes through an 8-speed dual clutch automatic transmission. And then in terms of power outputs, this one has the Z51 package, so it's 495 horsepower and then 470 pound-feet of torque. I do want to go over the rest of the area back here. So here's another quick look at the engine so you guys can kind of get a closer look at everything that's happening back there. I love the carbon fiber around the engine, just really nice accent piece right there. And then you can see the trunk space back here is really solid, so if you did need to use this as like a daily driver and you need to carry stuff around, you could do that no problem. Now let's go over the front end of the C8 Corvette. So first and foremost, I really love the headlights on this C8 Corvette. It kind of looks like a mixture between Lamborghini and McLaren, just really cool in general. And then on this specific one, I love all of the white accenting all around the car to contrast the purple. So you can see that it kind of matches with the white accenting that the LED lights give you on the car. So it's just really cool to see all of that up close and in person. But other than that, the front end on the C8 Corvette, obviously super aggressive. I think this is the best point on the car. I think this is the best looking part on the car, especially with the front splitter, just how aggressive that looks overall from a front end perspective. But yeah, that's everything for the front. Now coming around the side here, we've got two 55mm tires wrapped around 20-inch wheels, and then the rear is actually three 25mm with 21s in the back, so it is a full staggered setup. And again, I love the white contrasted against the purple on this specific one, and even the brake caliper kind of matches everything. So the brake caliper is all blacked out, but then it has the white print for the Corvette logo on the caliper, and you have more of the white striping that goes all along and around the venting there. And by the way, that's the venting to feed the engine for the C8. But yeah, another cool little accent piece on the car. It's just kind of like this giant side blade right there. But other than that, there is your full side view on the C8. Now let's go over the rear of the C8. So this one has the big wing, so it's the higher spoiler, and I definitely recommend getting this if you do get a C8. It just looks so much better from an aesthetic perspective. And I actually really like the new taillights on the C8, just really crazy with how they look. Again, it's just like this crazy sharp line. And then this particular C8 actually has a custom titanium exhaust. You guys will hear that a little bit later. It's really loud and it sounds really good. And you can see you've got more white accenting here at the bottom, which goes over the diffuser. And I love this little accent piece right here. You can see that the Ferrari right next to it has the same like metal grating on the back. So what I'm trying to say is the C8 is basically a Ferrari. Here's the door panel for the C8, and you can see that everything is covered in soft touch leather with really nice stitching all throughout. And then you do get the Bose sound system with this as well. But every single surface and every single touch point is just really nice in general from a material standpoint. Regular window controls, mirror controls, nothing too crazy there. It does come with an electronic door handle, so you press that and that's what will actually open up the door. And then you can see you've got your lock and unlock right here, and then hiding in the bottom of the door, you've got the release for the frunk and the trunk. And then you guys can see you've got all the memory seats. And speaking of the frunk, let's check it out. Now here is the front trunk, aka the frunk in the C8, and you can see you actually have this little latch thing to help you get out. And I love how it's like a person running away from the car. That's so funny looking. But the frunk is actually on the small side, especially compared to this 458. So I just looked at the frunk earlier today when I was reviewing the 458, and the frunk in that car is just like, it literally looks like twice as big as what the C8 has, but at least it has one. Now let's actually go over the rest of the interior on the C8. So you can see the seats here with the C8. You have the Corvette logo there at the top of the seats, and then you got all of the white stitching that goes all throughout on the seats themselves. And you can see the bolsters on them are actually pretty wide, so if you are a little bit of a larger person, you'd fit. But you can see they come out quite a bit, so it's still going to hold you in place very nicely. And just the feel of them feels very nice to the touch. These seats are super comfortable to actually sit in. Here's your adjustments on the side of the seat. There's what the pedal layout looks like at the bottom. You actually do get an automatically adjustable steering wheel. There's what the paddles look like there on the back of the steering wheel. And if you guys missed it, yes, you have carbon fiber on the seats. So you have it in the engine bay, and then you also have it on these seats as well. And there's one more look before we pop in. Here's a look at the steering wheel on the C8. So you've got that square design with the steering wheel, and you've got the white contrasted stitching all throughout, even over the airbag cover as well. I know some people don't like this steering wheel, but it's really easy to get used to it, and I think it's cool because it's just different. Here's the paddles in the back, which the actuation on them is actually pretty nice, and they look cool as well. And you've got a bunch of controls on the steering wheel. So you like your heated steering wheel control, your voice commands, controls for the center stack, cruise control, like all the stuff that you get on a normal modern car you have on this. And then yes, you do have a little stock there for the windshield wipers, and then you got the lights on the other side, but that's the steering wheel on the C8 Corvette. Now you have the center gauge cluster right here, and this is all configurable. Right now I love this configuration on it, especially with the RPMs there front and center. It just looks really cool. But with the other screens, you can see you can scroll through a couple different things. Like you can see your 0 to 60 performance, for example. You can go to the audio system, maintenancing on the car, all that kind of stuff. Pretty straightforward. So it has all the modern stuff, and it just looks really cool. So like if I just get rev it a little bit, it's just cool how that like goes up on the gauge. It just has a really unique look to it. And on top of that, we've got the drive mode. So you see that'll pop up in the bottom. So you got my mode, and then you go over to the touring. You got the sport, and then you have the track mode as well. And you just shift between the different modes with a little dial. I'll show you the dial just a little bit. And then finally, we've got the weather mode, which we might have to use today because it's been raining. Here is the center infotainment system, and sorry about my reflection in the screen, it's just because of the lighting right now. But first off, let's pop it into reverse. You can see the camera system's really good. It shows you views out of the car, out of every single angle. So like parking this car is not gonna be an issue whatsoever. You've got the parking sensors, but then you have the camera system as well. So there's nothing to worry about. And then if you go from park to drive, boom, throws on the front camera, and then you go back into reverse, and then it'll throw on the reverse camera again. So it just makes it really easy from a parking perspective. And then with the rest of the screen itself, response time on it's really good. You've got the navigation, you've got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So in general, just a really solid infotainment system. Just down below the infotainment system, we've got the gear selector itself. Pretty simple. You've got P for park, you pull up for reverse, you push in for neutral, and then up for drive. And then you have the manual mode if you do want to shift the gears yourself. And then over here, you've got a couple more controls. You got the stability control. This is just for the camera, so that just pops on the front camera if you quickly need to see a front view out of the car. This is the front end lift, which is really nice so you don't scrape on things, especially if you're getting out of driveways. And then this is the drive mode select. So it's kind of like you rest your wrist on that little part, and then you just twist the dial to go in the different drive modes. Pretty easy to use in general. And then if we actually zoom out, you can see like the whole screen system with this little thing on the side for the climate controls. It's absolutely massive. But you can see you've got all of your regular climate controls at the top. You've got your heated and ventilated seat controls right here. And then this is for the passenger down at the bottom part. And I love all the stitching and everything, but it's like, you got the driver's area, and then you have the passenger area, and it's like, yeah, you're in your own zone, passenger. Now, between the seats, we actually get a wireless phone charger, which is pretty neat, and I love how it's just like, it's like own little seat. Like your phone gets a seat between the two seats, basically. And you can see the passenger seat, same as the driver's seat, get all the cool carbon fiber. And then you can see, again, you've got all the nice leather on the dash, the stitching all over, just looks really nice and premium. And I just love just all the material use and like how the lines all come together. You can see it like all goes in one line there at the top of the dash, just really good from a material perspective, and just gives us a really upscale looking interior. I had to pop out of the car to show this to you guys, but this is my favorite part, is the headliner here. So you've got Alcantara, and then you have the white stitching on the headliner as well. Just another really nice upscale option on the car. And yes, since this is a Corvette, it does have the T-top. So basically you've got little things behind like the headrest and everything, and you just unlatch all of them, and you actually do it with one person. And then when you remove the top, it'll just be this part and this part. But obviously, since it's raining today, we're not going to take the top off, but you guys can see where the lines are and everything. And yeah, and yes, this does have the camera mirror, so you can see the view at the mirror is not good at all, but then when you use the camera, then you can actually see. So yeah, definitely recommend using that camera mirror with this car. Now we're done going over the interior on the C8 Corvette. Let's quickly go over pricing. So in terms of the original sticker price on this car stickered for about $85,000. However, the market on these cars is sky high right now. So the used market on this car right now is between $110,000 to $120,000, which is absolutely crazy, but there's so much demand for these cars and there's not that many of them. That all being said, let's take the C8 out and see how it drives. Let's quickly talk about visibility here on the C8 Corvette before we set off. And of course, again, it decides to rain right before we drive it. But you guys can see visibility out of the hood. It's really good. It's cool to see the haunches there on either side. Just makes it look really sporty. Kind of reminds me of like a Lotus Elise. There's your visibility through both of the mirrors, and they do have blind spot monitoring. And then here's your visibility throughout the rear, which again, it's not the greatest, but it does come with that camera mirror, so it's pretty easy to drive around. And that all being said, let's set off. So we're setting off here in the C8 Corvette, and yes, it is raining today, so you guys get to see how this is an all-weather vehicle at least. And I just love like the setup right there on the gauge cluster. I mentioned that earlier in today's video, but it's just a really cool look with the gauge cluster, and with the RPMs, just completely different. But what we're going to do is we're going to pop it over into the manual mode so you guys can see just how quick the gear shifts actually are. As you can see, as soon as you press the paddle, just instantly shifts. And then also on the upshift, just as quick. So from like a shifting perspective, really, really solid. So we actually have some curves here in the road. We can actually talk about the handling with the C8. So it handles really, really flat, and you definitely get that mid-engine feel where you can feel more weight there in the rear, but it feels really balanced. And again, you guys can see just how much it's raining, not having any grip issues whatsoever with the car. But yeah, from like a handling perspective overall, really good. In the steering as well, it's really tight, and you don't have to put that much input in for the steering to turn at all. And so it just kind of gives it more of like a go-kart feel, even though this is a little bit of a bigger car. Obviously it's raining, so we're not going to go too crazy, but we're going to get our little acceleration here. Yeah, that's crazy. It just keeps like going and going and going. And again, I can't go like full throttle because we don't want to end up somewhere over there. But it's just crazy how much torque this has. And the acceleration is very, very effortless. Like you could just keep going up to higher and higher speeds and you wouldn't even realize it, which is a little bit scary with this car, right? Because you don't want to get pulled over or anything like that. But it's also cool that the speed is so effortless. So you could be really comfortable at high speeds and not really have to stress out. And I'll get you guys one more little acceleration. Those downshifts are so aggressive. Yeah, that's just crazy. It's addicting how powerful this is. And I'm surprised, like, I'm not going full throttle, but the fact that I'm not losing any grip here in the rain is really impressive with this car, because my Supra has a lot less power, and if I were to do the same thing with my Supra, I would be spinning out all over the place, not getting any traction. And so it's just impressive how well this car actually hooks up. And that'll actually get me into summing things up with the C8. So you guys saw my review earlier where I didn't really get to push the car or get a full acceleration with it. Being able to like fully accelerate with this car just shows me how good this car is. And reviewing a Ferrari right before I review this, yes, this doesn't sound as cool, and I do like the looks on the Ferrari a little bit more, but for $85,000 for the MSRP of this car, and obviously the market value being closer to $110,000 to $120,000, it's such a good car and you get so much value for the money that I definitely think it's worth it. Now, that is going to sum things up for our video on this C8 Corvette. And again, a huge shout out and thank you to Chandler for giving me some time with his car. Go subscribe to his channel, and he actually has a real estate course right now helping you get up to making your first $100,000 in real estate. So go check that out as well. I'll see all of you in that next video.